Welcome to the EMN podcast, where philosophy meets disaster and uncomfortable truths meet the profession we call emergency management. This is not safe space thinking. This is the arena. Let's begin. Good morning, good afternoon, and depending on where you're at. And well, before we get started, I'd like to say hello and welcome our newest silver sponsor, Flood Maps. And Flood Maps provides an impact-based flood forecasting and real-time inundation mapping. And well, Flood Maps, welcome to the EMN family. It's kind of cool stuff there, Dan. Today, kind of, what do you think of Flood Maps, man? It's kind of cool stuff.
Yeah, I'm happy that they're part of the EMN world now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, normally we're talking about floods and stuff like this, but today we're not talking about hurricanes, floods, or fires. We're talking about a different kind of a disaster, things that kind of slow up. And we know what? Sometimes they come fast, sometimes it comes slow, but it's the division and that's threatening to tear our communities apart. And what do you think of that?
Yeah, well, division right now in the country is a big deal. It's all over. I mean, it doesn't. When you talk about disaster, we talk about how we respond and how we work with people. I mean, a lot of it is that collaboration and that trust that is built. And when you feel like you can't trust, or when you feel divided from the people you're working with, it definitely hinders progress.
So the question today is simple but urgent, right? When division itself becomes a disaster, what do we do about it? And, we plan for natural hazards, but social hazards like mistrust, it can be just as dangerous, but how do we plan for that?
You asking me?
Yeah.
All right. Well, there's a lot of ways. It's not really planning. It's actively, it's an activation. It's actually doing something. It's actually going out and building community, building that trust, building those partnerships. Division could take place really at any point in time, based off of very simple and at the time they feel very insignificant issues, but they can actually build and develop very large and significant gaps in how we do things. So it's an ongoing process. You can't really plan for that. But you can work to avoid it. Continuously work to avoid it, and that's by building those partnerships, those collaborations, and
Absolutely.
Going out there and making building those relationships before the event happens, knowing who people are, what people bring to the table, what resources they have, who they are that you're going to be working with them before the disaster actually takes place. Division, it happens if you allow it to. Ultimately, I mean, when you allow division to take place, it can really hinder progress in so many different ways. And in our line of work, it can really cost significant damage to not only a community, or it costs loss of life, if we're not working together.
It reminds me of that time, I forget the name of the hurricane, so forgive me on that. I think it was Helene, when the FEMA workers were going into North Carolina and Tennessee, and all sorts of kind of rumors were going around that FEMA was coming to take away land, or there was a land grab and all that kind of stuff. And in Tennessee, I believe it was, and correct me if I was wrong, where a bunch of residents, they didn't pull guns on the FEMA workers, but they had firearms with them. And it created a tension, so much so that FEMA pulled workers out of the area. And it becomes misinformation and disinformation. And kind of go back a little bit on that, I was taking just recently a course from the California Training Institute, CSTI is what we call it. And it's on terrorism specifically. But this one was talking about state actors with disinformation and misinformation, and how they're using that specifically to impact America, and to impact how we interact with each other. And this could be domestic and or international terrorism. This is not, maybe we can, maybe we can make that stretch there, of having this disinformation come up there to create social discord amongst ourselves when we have this. And so it really does put communities at risk when we as emergency managers go out there to say, hey, this is how you can get help. And then if there's distrust between the residents and our offices, when we're doing is trying to give information and trying to get them whole again, and they believe that we're lying to them, that really polarizes the community, and the government that's trying to help them. How do we, and I think what you're right, Dan, right there, and this kind of goes back to your comment, that we need to build trust with our community prior to any disaster occurring, so they do know that what we're telling them is true and competent information.
Well, I mean, it boils back down to, like, you can't just interact with people when something goes wrong. They have to trust you. You have to build that trust so that when something happens or misinformation is out there, or disinformation is being shared purposely, that they know that they can come to you for the actual answer. They know that if you're giving information, it's the right information. If they don't feel that they trust you and they only hear from you when you're telling them the bad thing is there or telling them what to do, because of something that's happening, yeah, that mistrust is going to be there, especially when they're listening to or hearing on a regular basis from people who are sharing misguided information or disinformation. And some of it is malicious, some of it is not malicious, but it's intentionally being shared, it's intentionally being spread, whether it's malicious or not. But the malicious actors that are out there, the ones who are actually out there trying to cause discourse, are actively doing it all the time. So when they hear from us on occasion, but they hear from these people that are actively all the time sharing misinformation, they're going to trust misinformation because they're listening to that source, whatever that source may be. So if they can't rely on us as a continual source of information, a continual source of support, then yeah, when we come to the table, there's going to be mistrust there because they don't know who we are, they don't know what we stand for, they don't know what we're bringing to the table. But if we're constantly engaging with our communities and we're constantly putting out resources, constantly putting out information, constantly at the table with them, then when the information comes, they can trust us, and they know they can trust us.
Right.
When you have somebody in someone's ear, basically every day telling them misinformation, and then we come in, every so often when the information's there, and to share it, yeah, they're going to not listen to us. They're not going to trust us.
Well, we talk about the social contract, and Hobbes's Leviathan. He discusses the concept of social society trades freedom for protection, right? But we talk about the concept here that the contract is eroding, and we see this today, where society.
You're muted.
I lost something here. Sorry. Society isn't trusting necessarily what the government is saying, and we saw that a lot through COVID-19, on both sides of the political spectrum, where people were not trusting what the government was saying. Why do you think that came to be, Dan?
Well, I mean, when you do have bad actors out there who are constantly putting that information out there, and then you have others that they interpret things based off of what they're not hearing, and then they start sharing it. So it can start small, and then it can snowball. But when an individual feels like they're being lied to, they start seeking information wherever they can, whether that information is correct or not. And that's in COVID. I feel like a lot of it was they felt like, oh, we're not being told the truth because they don't want to scare us, or they're trying to take our freedoms away, or they're trying to, whatever it may have been. And that escalated the mistrust and the misinformation. But on both sides of the political aisle, you have people saying information that could be true or not true, but the information that's being spouted is then causing us to look at another party or another individual with mistrust or dislike. And a lot of today as hate.
Mm.
It's not even I dislike you or I don't agree with you. It's I hate you now because you agree or you supported or you voted for whatever it was. And
Yeah.
when you go back to Discord, we're going to talk about the social contract. That's great. Um, when you understand that, it's not so much. I mean, and you keep hearing this like it's the worst it's ever been. It's the worst it's ever been, but it's really not. It's just we see it all. It's just back when you think about back in the day. I mean, if you heard anything or read anything, it was in a newspaper, it was on a news program. It wasn't beeping on your phone because it was happening in real time and it continuously. So we're seeing it so much more now that it appears to be this massive form of chaos that's happening all the time. Well, we're just seeing it all now
Mm.
in real time versus how it used to be. Sometimes you'd go a week before you knew something happened because it was in the paper.
Right.
But now we're seeing it happen real time on our phones. So it's like it's the amount of information we're getting completely gives us that it's a perception thing, right?
Right.
We think it's the worst it's ever been because we're seeing it happen in real time every single day. And every single day you have one party saying something about another party or one organization about another organization. One bad thing happening in another, and it's constant. So that social contract that you pointed to about we want our protection for that support. Ultimately, yeah, it can erode. But it's when you have actors out there who are causing it, whether you say it's international or national or domestic terrorism, it can absolutely be that information now. Cyber threat is a threat, right? That is now an actual threat. It can happen to our networking systems, right? So that we call that's a terrorist act. Well, misinformation, I mean, election tampering, all that other stuff that we've seen potentially taking place over the years because of our technology, our information, our infrastructure. Yeah, it can definitely be a big deal. But that social contract, as you mentioned, when they come up with this, it was ultimately, yeah, we are going into a contract with the government, basically allowing them to do things based off of our support. But they're supposed to give us protection in doing that. And sometimes we feel that protection's not there, especially when we see the stuff that we see all the time and we think, oh, it's getting worse. Well, in a way it is. I mean, it's happening more frequent and getting worse because of population, but it's not necessarily that you're being let down or not supported, not protected. It's when you have like the shutdown, that's the longest shutdown that's ever happened, right? And then it's finally ending. Awesome.
It's over.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Over.
Finally. But that's the longest shutdown we've ever had.
40 days. Yeah.
It's crazy. And then you hear about it, and then people are like, well, and then you got people from both sides saying, well, they're breaking the law. It's just the information is there. Who's right? You never know. And then you believe who you hear all the time.
Well, hold on to that thought for 1 second. I want to take a quick break, but I like this the idea here that disasters don't create division. They just reveal it, But I want to get into misinformation and the war for truth. But before we do that, I want to take a little quick break. And we do have something that I want to share with everybody here. Listen, everybody has a story to tell. And I know you all have stories to tell. And we have a thing that we're doing right now. It's called Operational Tales. And it's an opportunity for you to tell your story that you learned when you're either in the field or in the EOC, that story to tell. And I want to share it.
That reminds me of the hurricane last year.
Oh, I remember that. We were up for 3 days straight.
You've seen the chaos. You've made the calls. You've held the line. Now, it's time to share the story. Operational Tales is live, and EMN wants your real-life moments. The hard-won lessons, the inside jokes that saved the ship, the quiet wins that made all the difference. Write it raw. Keep it safe. Make it count. Because your story can teach, lift, and lead. Submit now on the Emergency Management Network Substack and let your voice carry farther than the radio ever could.
So come on, tell your story with us with Operational Tales. Dan, I know you have stories to tell.
Yeah, I guess no one wants to hear them though.
So I talked about the class through CSTI I took. We're talking about terrorism specifically. and with the rise of misinformation. And we had a lot of that going on during COVID, and we hear this all the time. Politics is full of misinformation or disinformation. Why is there a war on truth right now?
I don't know that it's a war on truth. I think they feel like I mean, a lot of it is they're sharing their opinion as it's truth, especially in politics. And then so whatever a person may believe or be following, or they don't want to feel like they're being lied to by the people that they are agreeing with and trusting. So it grows. That some of it is intentional. Other, like I said earlier, it's not necessarily intentional or malicious. It's just there. It's opinion based,
Well,
not factual based.
okay, hang on. So you and I have a mutual friend, and he might even be listening right now. And he will not. He doesn't believe nothing. Like even if it's on like CNN, right? I mean, definitely he will not listen to nothing that's on Fox News or MSNBC, right? Like that stuff is for sure tainted, right? But I mean, there's nothing that he'll believe from the news media, and he'll try to find like original source information. And I'm like, I ask him, I said, what do you believe, right? I mean, like there are zero news sources out there that he trusts, right? Because he doesn't believe anything coming from the news is true. And he believes half of what's coming from the government. Like he's not even sure government sources are true, right? I mean, it's just that's how tainted he believes information is right now, right? Because he doesn't believe, and it's like hard. Like it's like if you and it's like living in that. And I get it, right? I mean, like there's so much information that's out there that what do you know is true? Definitely don't believe. Like there are things that I believe, at least I thought I believed, that like are say on Facebook. I'm like, oh wow, I can't believe this is crazy. And then you go to post it, and then you start looking at it. You go, wait a second, is this true? You start looking at it. It's like a fake news story, right? Or man, AI is crazy, right?
Yeah, I mean, AI is a big deal right now, man, and it's definitely getting. I don't want to say it's getting worse because AI is getting better, but there are people out there who are making false news stories for the clicks and the likes and the comments, literally because that's what gets them views, gets them an audience, gets them financial support. So I mean, literally, I mean, when you got there's some people out there who are putting out misinformation intentionally. Then you have the news sources who are leaning politically. Like you mentioned, there are news sources that they're if you hear Fox News or CNN or whatever it may be, that they lean left, they lean right. So it's a lot of political belief versus factual information. But when you have the news in general, they are fear mongering. They will give you the worst case scenario all the time because they want you to stay connected, stay watching their show, get the information. Even if they share the same information 15 times in 30 minutes, it ultimately is a rephrase of how bad things are. That's just the way it is with the news. So finding your own information and finding, going to the source, that's not a bad thing to do. I mean, but you also have to understand, how is it interpreted? Who is the source? Is it factual? Is it opinion based? And you're going to have bias no matter where you go. You're going to have bias. But the fact of the matter is, you can see a lot of stuff happening in real time, so you can know whether or not the information you're getting is accurate or not. But when you see some of these videos and some of these articles and some of these things, they're fake, and it's shocking. What even more shocking is how better it's getting. How much better these deep fakes are getting, these videos are getting, these news sources that are out there are getting and putting this information out there.
And that helps divide. I say helps. That pushes sometimes that divide, right? Because like, if you send me, you go, oh my God, did you see what ex-politician said? Did you see, like in our case, we know we're here in California, did you see what Gavin Newsom said, right? And you read it, you go, oh my, it sounded real, right? And he said this, you go, whoa, that's crazy. And then you take a look at it, and you're angry that this governor says this, and you're wait, that's AI. He didn't really say that. But people, oh yeah, he did, and no.
They see clips, and they don't even have to see it with their own eyes, to be honest with you, anymore. Now they just got to read a post that says
Yeah.
he said something that was in quotes.
And it was
I mean,
completely false.
yeah,
You know,
it's
and now you're mad at
ridiculous.
them.
It is
Yeah.
ridiculous. I mean, they believe whatever they want, but a lot of it is that bias. We believe it because we want to believe it.
True.
We don't like the guy, so if he says something we don't agree with or we don't like, it's easy to just be upset because we know he said it because it's in quotes that he said it on someone's comment section. Versus, did he really say that? Are we taking this out of concept? I mean, is it misinformation, false information, or is it misinterpretation? I mean, you really have to be willing to do the work to find the real information versus just take people at their word.
Let's bring us back in the context of emergency management. So when you have people when you're trying to put them in the right direction for, say, disaster response and recovery, or, and they're going, oh no, this is what I heard. I heard that the governor said this. You're like, no, it's not. That's not what was said, and they don't believe you, and they don't want to evacuate, right? They don't want to evacuate because they're afraid they're going to lose their land. Because the governor said that they're going to take over the property and build affordable housing, which is a true story. When I say true story, this is what is happening with Palos Verdes, with the Palos Verdes, which is another thing that's going on with the Palisades. There was a story that said that the governor wanted to build affordable housing there, which was not quite the case of what the story was. So people now are suing LA County and the state and all this kind of stuff that's happening right now, because of and it's slowing down the recovery over there, right? That's one of those misinformation stories that broke, which is causing slowing down of the recovery process. And that's what I'm talking about. The war for truth, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to when you hear about the word truth, I mean, but it comes to, like, do you trust someone? Because if you trust someone, you feel like what they're telling you is the truth, whether it is or not.
Right.
If you trust somebody, you feel like they're telling you the truth, and that's where it builds upon us to take that responsibility to build that level of trust with our communities. So when we speak, people say, he's not lying to me or she's not lying to me. They're telling me the truth. They're giving me correct information.
How do you lead now? How do you lead during this time? So, with the emotional intelligence and the critical skills that you need to lead a community during this time, because we can't command unity. We can't come in there and say you will be unified as a community, right? I mean, but we could create a space for this, right? We could create a space for dialogue, and we could create a space for communication. But what do you do in this?
It's about transparency at that time. You got to tell people what you're doing, and then you got to show them that you're doing it. They have to see it. They have to know that what you're telling them and what you're doing are the same thing. That you're not telling one thing and doing something else. You have to be as transparent as possible in the things that you're doing, but it has to be so consistent that they see that you're not saying one thing and doing one thing when they're looking and doing something else when they're not. You have to let them see the process, and it has to be done intentionally. Go back to that intentional word. With intentional, it has to be done intentionally and with purpose. And you have to bring them into it, because they're going to have. You say open up the area for communication and dialogue and stuff. That at some level, that's just argument. It's just like my word versus your word, my opinion versus your opinion. But when it comes to disaster response and things, there's no opinion there. You have to do the work, and the work gets done. And the more you do the work and the more they see you doing the work, the more trust is built throughout the process, because they know you're doing what you say you're doing, and it's consistent. You can't respond to a disaster based on your political belief.
Right. That's
not how it works. And that's not how leadership works either. You can't respond to a situation based on your personal belief. It's what's better for the entirety of the group. Right?
And trust is a currency that you build
over time.
Prior to the disaster. And I've said this a bazillion times. That's a big number, bazillion. That's a legit.
We're getting there.
It's a legit. So I've said this. You go out into your community, you start building trust. You have to go to those community events and shake hands and meet people, meet community leaders. There's in the community where I'm working, there's a pastor who has a pretty large congregation, and I'm meeting with him, and we're building a disaster ready church with him, right? And we're teaching basically CERT program and disaster resilient program with his church, and they're going out and they're teaching community members from there, right? And some people go, oh, how do you do that with a church? Well, there's a very influential church in our community, and you have to build, you build with that, with the community members that are there. So work with who you have, right? Work with the community. Like if you, in this particular community I work in, it's a church. It might be a mosque. It might be, a synagogue, depending on where you're at. It might be a large, whether it's a Lions Club or a Kiwanis Club or whatever it is, right? Whatever community organization out there is a leading community organization, you have to work with them, and you have to build that communication and trust. Because if you're not there in the trenches, if you will, with those community organizations, you've already lost. And trust is that invisible lifeline of every plan. Because if they do not trust you and they don't trust that plan, you've already lost before before you started.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think and it boils down to you have each one of those that you just mentioned need to be worked with, but each one of them have their own community that trusts them. So if you're influencing the influencer, you can get deeper into the community.
Yes.
If you build trust with the influencer, and the influencer believes and trusts you and works with you and is and transparent, and then they're turning around and sharing that with their community who trusts them. That's how it's really built, because they may not trust me, but if the influencer trusts me and believes in me and what I'm saying, and knowing that I'm transparent and I'm being there for them, and they turn around and tell their community the same thing, then they know that the trust is there.
Because
if you don't have that trust, they've influenced. They've built that trust. They have that trust already. That consistency, that belief, that relationship has already been built. Now you build it with the person that's out there and has that influence already, with the church, with the Lions, with the sinners that are out there, because they have a group and a community that goes to them, that trusts them, that believes in them. And if you build that relationship with them, they will then continue that on with their group.
I think we have the ability as emergency managers to build those bridges where the voids of trust have eroded. Especially with communities that are shy to work with government, especially when it comes to communities that are not interested in working with like law enforcement. We are non-uniform services. We do come in.
We're not. You got to think about that too. In some workplaces, we're not non-uniform.
Right. And you know what? And if you happen to work as emergency managers in a uniform division, take that damn uniform off, and go and work with that community. Because emergency managers, we can build those bridges.
Yeah, we can, and we can build those levels of trust and the collaboration that others can't, based off of where they work or the mistrust that's there. You still deal with it as an emergency manager. You still deal with it, but you can do it if you're intentionally and purposely out there doing it and engaging the community, and you're willing to get out of your office and go out there and engage and interact and build that trust. But yeah, when you're to go back to what you just said, when you're wearing a uniform or wearing a badge, that level of trust can easily be unattainable, just because of that, because of that level of the fear that may be there, whether it is a relevant fear or not. The fear still exists. They don't know, and if there's any kind of mistrust whatsoever to people in uniform and people who wear a badge.
Again, that's not every community. That's a broad brush. We're talking about the communities that have those issues, right? Every community has a level of mistrust.
Right. Every community, there's a level of mistrust, whether it is a mistrust of the government, or whether it's just a mistrust of a specific a department, or whether it's a mistrust of whatever. There's some level of mistrust. There can be things done in every community to rebuild that trust, and to do it in such a way that to know that it's not politically driven, it's transparent, I'm there to serve the community. Doesn't matter what your beliefs are. Doesn't matter where you come from. Doesn't matter your cultural, your religious, the color of your skin. I'm here to help you. I'm here to work with you.
Because if we're not right, and this is the thing too, Dan, if we're not leading those conversations, somebody else will, and they might not lead them towards resilience, towards preparedness, towards building community, towards building those bridges, right? Yeah. Towards building capacity. They could lead them to other things, and we really need to have that. Because at the end of the day, you know what? I mean, like, disasters, they don't care if you're red or blue. They don't care who you voted for. But they're gonna expose, those disasters are gonna expose what we built between us and what we built between that community.
Oh yeah, 100%. I agree. I mean, yeah, when a disaster is going to strike, it's going to strike no matter what culture you are, what blue state, red state. Doesn't matter. Disaster, when it hits, if you're not ready for it, it can destroy your life, and it can take lives, number one. Absolutely. But it can destroy everything that you've built. And if you're not willing to take the time to, as a emergency manager, to build that trust with the community, to build that education, to build that preparedness, a lot of bad things can happen. Then goes back to that consistency and transparency. Just be as consistent as you can and be as transparent as you can, so that people can build that level of trust with you, and understand that you're there despite what you might believe personally. Yeah. Despite our disagreements or our differences, I'm there because one thing we can all agree on is we're alive at that point in time, and I want to keep you that way.
Preparedness and capacity building and being ready for the next disaster begins with trust. And the other thing on our side here is that trust from our side, as from the government, it begins with listening. And I think that's the most critical lesson that you could take away, is that we need to come and stop talking sometimes and sit down and listen to what the needs of the community are. Because, we build these bridges and we build the roads after every disaster, but trust, that's that one thing that we can't just order through, mutual aid, Yeah,
it's built through action. It's built through the stuff that we see. And how often we see it, and to understand too, that the actions that we're taking aren't benefiting one more than the other. We're not favoring one over another. That trust is there from the actions that people see, and that consistency that you back it up with is where decision making really gets people to take action.
All right, Dan, hey, we're kind of getting overtime here, so I'm going to let you close it out.
All right. Well, everybody, thanks for listening to the EM podcast. If you have an operational story you'd like to tell us, please submit those to us. We'd love to be able to share those. Be on the lookout for us next week at IAM. We're going to be at IAM in Louisville, Kentucky. We'll be doing some podcasts from the floor of the show. We're going to actually have quite a few live going out next week, so you'll be seeing some recorded, but you'll be seeing some live as well. So pay attention to those. If you're going to be there, come see us at our booth. We'd love to see you, talk to you, even have you on the show as we broach that subject. But we would love to.
We got a giveaway.
Go forward. What's that?
We have a giveaway.
Oh yeah, we do have a giveaway. We have a giveaway there. We have some signups that'll be taking place, and then you can interact with us, which that should be enough.
All right, everybody. As always, stay safe and stay hydrated. Until next time, see you later.
When the sirens scream out loud, we're the voice that breaks the cloud. Heads held high when things go wrong. We'll guide you through its strength and song. Disaster strikes without a sound. Chaos reigns, but we're around. Public safety in our hands. Standing strong in every land. Imagine